reverse grid for Heat 2, which caused a traffic jam at Copse. Tiff Nadell in the cabin Porsche 962, the Richard Lloyd racing machine, immediately into the lead, followed by Austrian driver Walter Lechner in his Porsche. There was some rain between the two 7-lap heats and some contact at Copse the next time round. Lechner being bumped out of second place by Bob Wallach. Wallach then took the lead at Stowe Corner. Some dampness on the track, but by Club Corner, Nadell, not to be denied, immediately snatched it back from the French driver. The missing wheel spat caused by that confrontation with Lechner, but under the bridge and into Bridge Corner, Bob Wallach came back and took the lead. Nadell in second place, Walter Lechner in third place, as the cars come towards the chicane for the last time. Across the finish line, and the aggregate results of the two heats meant that Bob Wallach starts from the position 1 on the front row. Tiff Nadell alongside him, and on row 2, Costas Loss in the Spice and Walter Lechner in his Porsche. A 16-car field for the 45-lap race, and we speak to Tiff Nadell about his chances.
Tiff, on home ground, you must be sure of a good result here.
Well, I don't think you're ever sure of a good result, no. It's very much, new car, new setup. We're not used to this form of racing, and we haven't done much testing with the new car on fuel consumption, so I think Bob's got the same problem.
So you're both a bit margin on the consumption?
Yeah, well, always you want to use it all, but how fast we can go and still not run out, we're not sure. But the first 20 laps will show most.
The C2 battle between Nick Adams in his Spice and Tim Harvey a bit further up the grid.
Home circuit for you, you're 2 rows behind Tim Harvey.
Well, it's a brand new car, and we had all the usual teething problems in practice yesterday and the qualifying heats, doors coming open, that sort of thing. But this morning in the warm-up, the car was very good, and we were actually quicker than they were. So
you're confident of holding back the deficit?
Well, the problem I've got, as you can see from the grid, is I've got 3 Porsches between me and him. And if they run at a pace that's just a bit slower than us, but obviously slower than Tim, he could get away, and overtaking them is a problem. They're so fast down the straight.
How about fuel consumption in Silverstone? Is that a problem?
Not for us. No, in the warm-ups we were well in actually, so I don't think there's any problems there.
So the green flag out, and the cars waved away on their warm-up lap behind the Alfa Romeo pace car. The fuel situation, all the C1 cars, well, all the Porsches except for the Spice, have to call in for a fuel stop. C1 cars can hold 120 litres or unlimited for the 3.5 litre car. That's the yellow one of Costas Loss, number 22. The C2 cars of Adams and Harvey, they can hold 93 litres and they don't need a pit stop. The tyre situation, most of the cars running Goodyear tyres, they're being warmed up at the moment, although Walter Lechner is using Dunlops, and in the C2 cars, Tim Harvey is on Avons. So let's have a look at the lineup. Bob Wallach in pole, Tiff Nadell alongside him, both 962s, although different variations. The Gerst variation and the Richard Lloyd racing entry. Row 2, Costas Loss in the Spice, 3.5 litre Cosworth engine, won't need a fuel pit stop, and Walter Lechner in his 962. On row 3, John Winter, another one of the Gerst entries, alongside Tim Harvey in his Spice, the leading C2 runner. Row 4, Jean-Louis Ricci, heir to the Ricci Perfume fortune, and Antoine Salamain in his Porsche. Row 5, Nick Adams, who we spoke to just a minute ago, alongside Tim Lee Davey in one of the C1 cars. Row 6, John Bartlett in the Harrier, 5.7 litre Chevrolet engine with Helmut Gall in the Argo. Row 7, Thierry Lecerf, 3.3 Cosworth power for his Argo, and Paul Stott in the ADA. Rebuilt from their original chassis and running again on row 7. Philip Henning in the ex-Costas Loss Spice SE87, and alongside him Rudi Seher in the Gebhardt Audi Turbo. Meant to be lining up on row 9, Karl-Heinz Becker in his BMW powered Lola, but he wasn't able to make it to the grid. Engine problems forcing his withdrawal. There were some other cars lined up to compete here at Silverstone, Ferrari F40s, but they never showed up. And Walter Brunn in his Porsche was meant to be here, but he didn't make it either. 16 cars, 45 laps, Alfa Romeo pace car about to pull off. Bob Wallach in pole, just nosing ahead. Yellow Spice in third place, and the red Porsche of Tiff Nadell. Waiting for the lights to turn green, and as they do so, Bob Wallach jumps into an immediate lead. Walter Lechner down the outside, and squeeze between the pit wall and Tiff Nadell. Costas loss. Wheel spat goes flying from Nadell's car, but Bob Wallach jumps straight into the lead. Lechner in second place, and in third place, Tiff Nadell. C2 cars come storming through at the back of the field. Loss up into fourth place, and in fifth place, the leading C2 car of Tim Harvey. Behind him, the Porsches of John Winter and Jean-Louis Ricci. Down the hangar straight, Wallach able to pull out a substantial lead in the opening lap. Lechner in second place, and tailing Tiff Nadell, Costas loss. If the Spice can run hard, won't need any fuel stops, and could be a good chance for the race. Wallach through club corner, opening up a commanding lead on the opening lap. Lechner being challenged for second place now by Tiff Nadell, who goes round the outside at Abbey. See if he's made it through. Yes, and he has. The Austrian racing school proprietor demoted down to third, and now down to fourth, as the Greek-based Londoner Costas Loss goes through on the inside at Bridge Bend. So the order at the end of lap one: Bob Wallach, Tiff Nadell, Costas Loss, Walter Lechner, John Winter, Jean-Louis Ricci and Tim Harvey, leading C2 car. Down into Copse Corner, and the order remains the same. Cars starting to stretch out a little bit now. The Spice, new car on the scene, built for 1991 regulations, which require a 3.5 litre engine, bring it into line with Formula One cars. This car doesn't need to have a fuel stop, but all the Porsches will need to have one. The C2 battle between the ADA of Paul Stott, just going through the picture there. Tim Harvey and Nick Adams will be looking out for that during the race. Down into Stowe Corner, Costas Loss in third place, and dropping back after that quick start, Walter Lechner in fourth place, and he's being hard pressed by John Winter in the other of the Joest Porsches. So the second and third place men, saw them involved in that clash on the opening lap, meant that one of the wheel spats was lost from Nadell's car, and the mirror from the Spice of Costas Loss. And we'll see the damage to the outside of the bodywork Nadell's car. Have to see how that affects his fuel consumption. There being slightly more drag now with the wheel spat missing. The fuel restrictions less demanding than FIA rules. Cars will be able to manage about 55 litres per 100 kilometres rather than the 51 per 100 kilometres they manage in the WSPC races. As I said, won't affect the Spice, but all the Porsches will be affected. On to lap 5, and the fastest lap of the meeting so far to Wallach, 1:22.02, just over 130 miles an hour. So Wallach storming away from the field, and as they come under the new bridge along the hangar straight, not storming anywhere, Costas Loss. Car grinding to a halt, still holding third place as we wait for the fourth place man to come into picture. There he is, Walter Lechner, but Loss, totally at a loss, I think. Car drifting slowly around Stowe Corner. He pulls off and heads to retirement. Too far to head to the pits. So the 3.5 litre Cosworth powered Spice of Costas Loss stops at Stowe Corner on lap 5. The Harrier Chevrolet of John Bartlett just being passed by second place man Tiff Nadell. His lights ablaze as he comes up under the Daily Express Bridge, round Bridge Bend and towards the chicane. There's leader Bob Wallach and second place man Tiff Nadell. They're already starting to lap some of the slower traffic and pulling into the pits. Number 53, Helmut Gall, 3 litre Porsche engined Argo, heading towards the pits on lap 6, so it's a bit early for him, could be heading towards retirement. And let's go down to the pits to find out what happened to erstwhile third place man Costas Loss.
Chef Isel, what was your problem?
He came on the radio to say that the engine had lost power and then stopped.
and he was unable to start the car again. So we don't know the problem until after the race.
Disappointment for Spice in C1, but the C2 cars having a good battle. Tim Harvey leading at the moment, the Istel-backed car. Nick Adams in second place, just about to be lapped by Bob Wallach. And holding third place, Paul Stott in the red ADA. This gives a good opportunity for Nadell to make up some time. There he comes in second place, but he'll still have to get past the C2 cars if he wants to make an impression on the leader, Bob Wallach. Fifth place, Tim Harvey. Tiff Nadell comes up to put another lap on the Harrier Chevrolet of John Bartlett, who's been circulating quietly, keeping out of the way, but still running in last place, which is now 12th position with the retirement of John Winter. So the last few laps, the time for Nadell to really put his foot in if he wants to catch up, or if he looks like he's running out of fuel, he'll have to ease off and settle for second place. Bob Wallach across the start-finish line. And the gap has been extended slightly, so perhaps Nadell is having to drive a bit more conservatively. 5.1 seconds it says there, and it looks like an unbridgeable gap for Nadell to overtake at the moment. C2 battle carrying on between Nick Adams, Tim Harvey. Harvey in the 3.9 Spice, Adams in the 3.3 litre Spice, both Cosworth powered. And here we see them as they're about to be lapped by the leader Bob Wallach. Nick Adams in the lead of C2, Tim Harvey trying around the outside at Stowe Corner. And they've been able to dispense with the two Porsches that were causing them so much annoyance. Tim Lee Davey and Antoine Salomon had to call in for fuel. The C2 cars don't need to do that, so they've been able to put a lap on those two cars and enjoy their own race-long battle. Nick Adams leading at the moment, Tim Harvey in second place. Catch a glimpse of them there. Bob Wallach comes up, probably to lap them as we come towards the closing stages of the race. The C2 lap record went earlier on today, 1:25.02, which compares 3 seconds outside the fastest lap of Bob Wallach, 1:22.02. 66 is Adams, 67 Tim Harvey. Bob Wallach's pace slowing down, and Tiff Nadell not even in the picture anymore, so he's had to back right off. Lap 44, penultimate lap. Following the leader here, but the real interest just ahead of this between the two C2 cars. Nick Adams still ahead of Tim Harvey as they come down the hangar straight into Stowe. Paul Stott still holding on in third place in C2 with his ADA. Into Stowe and running at a conservative pace now. Bob Wallach not running at a conservative pace, the C2 cars, and Tim Harvey has a look up at the inside. Nick Adams, his car using Avon tyres. Nick Adams running on Goodyears. Tim Lee Davey up ahead of them. Tim Harvey pulls out round the outside. Can't find any way to go there. And just holding a watching brief at the moment, not wanting to get involved in any last lap dramas. Tim Harvey makes a move on the inside through the chicane. Still holding the lead though, Nick Adams, as they head down towards Copse Corner. Over 200 kilometres of racing, and there's only a bumper bar in it between the leaders in the C2 category. Bit more of a margin than that in C1. Bob Wallach, Tiff Nadell, Walter Lechner. In fourth place, Jean-Louis Ricci. And this is the battle for fifth place between Nick Adams and Tim Harvey. The Porsche ahead of those two. Tim Lee Davey, he's a lap down and holding eighth place at the moment. All the cars bunching up as they head towards Stowe. Tim Lee Davey moves out wide, and Tim Harvey tries around the outside at Stowe. Will he cut across? Can't do anything there. Rest of the field make their way through, and they're being held up behind Tim Lee Davey. All the cars pull out, nearly three abreast as they come down towards Club Corner, and on the inside, Tim Harvey. Tim Harvey gets up to take the lead in C2. Out onto the rumble strip for Nick Adams. Moves across. doesn't see the leader coming up behind him. Bob Wallach right on the tail of the second place man in C2. So Bob Wallach coming up to take the flag. Now this will mean if Wallach does not lap them, Harvey and Adams will have to do an extra lap, as will Tim Lee Davey in front. So the flag comes out for Bob Wallach, wins the Sat1 Cup round from Silverstone, and Adams slows down. I wonder if he thinks the race is over. He's still got another lap to complete. Well, carrying on, Tim Harvey, not taking any chances, keeping going, and he's found a way round the outside of Tim Lee Davies' Porsche. Has he? No. Lee Davey holds the inside line around Beckett's, but all the cars slowing down, must be running really low on the fuel. Nick Adams slowed right down. Slowed down, he's out of the picture. In fact, there he is, just coming at the top of Hangar Straight. Chugging down pretty slowly at the moment into Stowe Corner. So he's leading C2. The winner of the race, Bob Wallach, is on his slowing down lap. But the rest of the field still have half a lap to complete. And it's pretty painful progress for Tim Harvey. Well, he's obviously out of fuel. Jiggling the car round and probably anxiously looking in his mirrors to see if Nick Adams is still running. Has realised what's happened. There's our 8th place man. That's Tim Lee Davey. Thierry Lesurf comes through in the Argo. Tim Lee Davey crosses the line. But Nick Adams heading towards the finish line, going very slowly. And he's going to go into the pit lane. So he'll be taking the flag from inside the pit lane, probably without realising the mistake he's made. So the win in C2, Tim Harvey. Finished the race, just ran out of fuel over the line. So a rather confused end to the race. Tiff Needell took 2nd place. In 3rd place, Walter Lechner. In 4th place, Jean-Louis Ricci. In 5th place, this man, Tim Harvey. In 6th, Nick Adams. 7th, Antoine Salamer. 8th place, Tim Lee Davey. There's the 2nd place man, totally out of fuel, Tiff Needell. He had to back off over the last few laps to maintain his position and eventually finished 30 seconds behind the winner, Wallach. 1 lap down, Lechner and Jean-Louis Ricci. C2 winner, Tim Harvey. A disappointed Nick Adams alongside him. And in 3rd place, Paul Stott. A hard drive in the ADA. Also had fuel problems towards the end of the race. Bob Wallach's win in the race gives him a further lead in the championship for the Sat1 Cup. Tiff Needell, good result in the Richard Lloyd Racing Porsche, and in 3rd place, Walter Lechner.